Hello everybody, welcome back to C8 Corvettes in beautiful sunny Sarasota, Florida. It's your Corvette buddy Lyle here to talk to you about more interesting, exciting, and hopefully helpful Corvette stuff. If you enjoy our content, or if you're even just new to the channel, please find it in your heart to like and subscribe so that we can continue to grow the channel and bring you more and more content. The more subscribers, the more views, the more content we can do, because remember, we're running a full-time 50-year-old Corvette parts and service facility here, and the more of you we have involved, the more time we can dedicate to bringing you content. Thank you in advance. Okay, so I broke down. I did. I swore I wouldn't do it, but I did it. I spent my own money to rent a C8 Corvette for a full weekend, about a month and a half ago. Now see, we see C8 Corvettes here from time to time for exhausts and carbon fiber bits and solar programmers and all kinds of fun stuff, but they're only here for a little bit of time, and they're only here for a given small amount of things that we can do, because after all, they're under warranty at the dealership, right? The people are taking it there for the big work. So I never got I had sat in several of them, but I never gotten the chance to actually take an extended drive in a C8. So I was like, well, these cars are pretty darn popular, and I really like them, so I'm gonna go ahead and invest in my own future. And I grabbed myself and I grabbed my son, who's 22, and he is a SCCA licensed racing driver. And we took this car out for 2 full days. And this is basically my thumbnail review of what my experience was being a 25-year veteran of the Corvette industry and what my thoughts were on this C8. So first, a little bit about the car. I rented this car off of Turo, which is an app on your phone that's kind of like Airbnb, but for cars. This car it was a 2022 1LT base model. I mean, dead nuts base. White with the red seats, no additional options. It had 38,000 miles the day I picked it up, and it had been a rental its entire life. So we're not talking about a brand new car that hasn't been pushed, that has been lovingly cared for. The guy takes good care of his cars, don't get me wrong, but this wasn't a brand new car. So my son and I went and picked it up, and then he and I put 300 miles on this car all over Southwest Florida. Back roads, you know, maybe a quick sprint using launch control somewhere we won't tell law enforcement about. But here's my review. First of all, I didn't fit in the C7 at all. For those of you who aren't aware, I'm 6'11", and I drive a C5 pretty comfortably. I fit in the C6 okay, but when the C7 came out, I actually had the money at the time to buy my first new Corvette. So in 2014, when they showed up at Bloomington Gold with those prototypes, I was like, yeah, baby, I'm gonna go ahead and get in this and really enjoy it. I didn't fit in the car. Because of the dash design, the way the seats were designed, the entire cabin just didn't work for me. Because the dash hit my knees, I couldn't even touch the pedals with my toes. So I was heartbroken that, you know, finally I'm in a position to have a new Corvette and I can't even fit in the car. Fast forward to 2020, the first time I sat in a C8, I fit pretty well. I mean, at least well enough to drive the car without being terribly uncomfortable, but that was for like 5 minutes. So on our 300 miles of driving, you know, my son drove some, I drove some, I found the following things. Number one, even the base seats in the 1LT are super nice. Here's why. In all the Corvettes I've ever owned, with Corvette seats, you kind of sat on the seat, right? Like on it. In the C8, you really kind of sit in the seat, like a baby bird in a nest. And you feel secure in that. It feels very solid, and you're not moving all around, which, especially for somebody with my long torso, if I'm going through the twisties, I'm going all over the place. These seats held me firmly in place. The nice wide footwell, because the engine's in the back now, allowed me to, for my size 16 feet, to have room to move and to spread my knees out just enough when I'm driving so I'm not hitting my knees with my hands as I go to turn. And that's where that square squircle steering wheel came into really sharp relief for me. That allowed those nice tight turn motions, more like a racing wheel than a big like the C5 wheel. So I was able to drive that car efficiently and quickly without having to adjust myself every time I turn the wheel, which was really cool. Headroom, I mean, I've got about that much headroom. You know, granted, I don't have to worry about messing up my hair. I hear that the convertibles can offer a little bit better headroom because of their design, but for me, the coupe was fine. And the driving dynamics of this car, let's get into that a little bit. I don't want to belabor the point because everybody's reviewed this car, but this is just from my personal perspective. The ride is excellent. Even on this car that had 38,000 miles on it, the ride was very compliant, but very confidence inspiring. It's very smooth. It is not similar to C5s or C6s. It is much nicer than that. It's not beating you to death. You definitely feel that this car is taking care of you, not only in keeping you comfortable, but keeping you in the direction you want to go and in the way that you want to drive. It inspires a lot of confidence. Acceleration is absolutely stupid with two O's. Because of the engine and the weight being on the back and those great big wide tires in the back, you do launch control on that thing, even on the base car. I mean, honestly, that's the fastest car I've ever driven. And I've driven a lot of cars in my life, but from 0 to the legal speed limit, it's really, really, really fast. Like where I had to hold my head forward so I didn't whack my head on the back of the T-top when I hit the launch control. Handling was outstanding. I do see what they're talking about, that if you were going to be on track, you'd probably want to adjust the camber a little bit in the front, because if you really throw it into the turn, it can understeer a little bit. My son's reaction to this, being a much more talented racing driver than I'll ever be, was he felt the same thing. He felt, though, that the car was very willing. It wanted to do what you wanted to do. He took me for a ride that made me very, very pale. But, and he's calm, he's going through the gears, he's downshifting through these twisties out in the middle of nowhere. The car was super capable, inspired a lot of confidence, and gas mileage was good. I would probably put an exhaust on the car because all I could really hear was the mechanical part of the engine behind my head. I really couldn't hear the song of the V8 behind me. But overall, my takeaway was this car was far nicer than any Corvette I've ever driven. That's not necessarily fair to the C7 because I was never able to drive or ride in one because I don't fit. But far, far beyond any other American sports car I've ever driven as far as build quality, confidence inspiring, and wide quality and performance. My son's reaction was interesting, being a younger man. For him, the C7 is the ultimate Corvette. He said that the C8 is a better car, but in his opinion, the C7 was a better Corvette, which I thought was interesting. I'd be interested to hear your comments about that below. Overall, my takeaway was I was just stunned at what a great package that car is. Even without all the bells and whistles, even without the high performance add-ons, the car is so solid. And if you haven't driven one of these cars and you're even thinking maybe one day you'd be interested in one, I'm telling you now, go drive a C8. Go on Turo, go to your dealer buddy who'll let you have one for 5 or 6 hours. Go drive one of these cars. Even if you never end up buying one, it's an experience worth having. It shows you what GM and America are really capable of at this point, especially at this price point. I was impressed. I was truly impressed. I did enjoy seeing a C8 in my driveway along with my old C5 Z06. That was a good feeling. That has inspired something in me and in the shop here in general. We're going to be taking on a year-long project coming up that I will tell you more about once we've got the wheels turning on it. But it is going to be C8 focused, and I'm excited about it. We're putting all the wheels in motion right now, especially after Lyle kind of solidified what we wanted to do with this project. So stay tuned for upcoming news on that. It is going to be the biggest undertaking we've ever done on YouTube. And well, I'm excited about that too. So that's my thoughts on the C8. If you've test driven a C8 and don't own one, but have just driven one for a given day or two, what are your thoughts? Put in the comments below. I'd love to hear about them. Until next time, I'll see you later. Have a good weekend.